Welcome to the Nano podcast. I'm your host, Will Chernlin, and I'm excited to have you join me on this journey through the world of nano-cap companies. For the past decade, I've talked to thousands of business owners across various industries. It's been an enlightening experience revealing the vast tapestries of entrepreneurship and innovation that thrives beneath the surface of mainstream media coverage. Each week, I will interview different leaders of nano-cap publicly traded companies to learn about their history, what they do now, and their future. As a reminder, none of this information is financial advice, and it is all for entertainment purposes only. Let's start this week's episode. Hi, everyone. Today we have Paul Romness, CEO of OSTherapies, stock ticker OSTX. OSTherapies is a clinical stage cancer immune therapy company that is developing new treatments for osteosarcoma and other solid tumors. Paul, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Will.
So, Paul, I usually start with people kind of LinkedIn and their background a little bit. So, can you tell me just a bit more about your life before becoming the CEO?
Sure. I've been in the biotech and pharma industry my entire career. I was at Johnson & Johnson for many years, which is kind of cool because we're now headquartered at the J Labs in Lower Manhattan, like you and I were just talking about. And then Amgen, and then Boehringer Ingelheim. And didn't really think I was going to be starting a biotech company. But then my daughter's best friend got this very rare, very deadly bone disease. And so we started the company. We in-licensed the technology. We did a clinical trial. More importantly, Olivia's doing well. And a third of the patients that did our trial are doing really well, compared to not very good results generally for osteosarcoma.
And so do you just explain to the audience a little bit more what is osteosarcoma and how it not only affects children, but also your pets?
Sure. It's considered the most aggressive, toughest to treat cancer, solid tumor cancers. And what happens is at puberty or in dogs later in life when their immune system starts to weaken, there's a miscalculation in the bone. With teenagers, it usually happens in teenagers, and it usually happens in these long bones, either your distal femur, proximal tibia, proximal humerus, and there's just a miscalculation, and the bone starts to multiply. Then there are these little micrometastases that break off from that, and even after the chemo and radiation that these kids have done for 7 to 9 months, they're looking for oxygen in soft tissue. So that's why, not just with osteosarcoma, other solid tumors, breast cancer, when it metastasizes to the lung and brain because it's the huge source of oxygen and soft tissue for those little cancer seeds to land in.
And so tell me a bit more about just like what OSTherapies does. What was the insight or breakthrough you had that, hey, I think we can stop this or reverse this? And what was kind of the novel breakthrough?
Yeah, so there are only about 1,000 kids a year that get osteosarcoma a year. There are 30 to 40,000 dogs in the United States that get osteosarcoma. The University of Pennsylvania, Dr. Nicole Mason was doing this really interesting trial with our therapeutic. And she treated 18 dogs with osteosarcoma. The results of that phase 1 trial were so good that the USDA gave her conditional approval for that. We started OSTherapies when we heard about this technology, and we in-licensed it from another company that had in-licensed it from Penn. We very recently just took over that platform, the entire platform technology, and so we will be contracting directly with Penn. Couple of cool things about that is if this works in osteosarcoma, it should work in other solid tumors. So you hear a lot about breast cancer and that we're doing better with breast cancer these days. That's true, but there's still a lot of people dying of breast cancer every year. And that's because the treatment that they're using, it's called a checkpoint inhibitor, keeps the cancer down. It's trastuzumab or Herceptin. And that keeps the cancer down, but it doesn't kill it. What we're doing is firing up the immune system. We give the body a biologic infection. The body freaks out, 10, 11, 12, 13 immune responses, and the body tells your lymph nodes to secrete T cells that go and find and kill these little micro metastases, or what we call cancer seeds. So with breast cancer treatment right now, the standard of care is keeping the cancer at bay, but it's not killing the cancer. So we could add our therapy to that, kill the cancer, and then that original standard of care therapy works better and longer.
Is this the type of therapy where each dose and each administration of it is custom to each patient based on their immune system to make sure it fires everything? Or have you all found a concoction that basically fires all the different immune system alarms to make everything go to work right away?
So this is a very natural approach to firing up your immune system. What we're doing is giving the body a attenuated or weakened Listeria, which is a really nasty biologic infection. And we fused a HER2 vector to it. And a lot of these cancer solid tumors, when they're setting up their landing gear to land into the lungs and the brain, they start expressing this HER2. So what we've done is fired up the immune system to go out and look for these little foreign objects. They're looking for Listeria, but we've already shut the Listeria down at hour 4. But that immune system is going through looking at a cellular and intercellular level. Are you a good cell? Are you a bad cell? And if they're a bad cell, they kill it. And so I think the real breakthrough here was realizing that you could fire up your immune system, and it's what we call an off-the-shelf immune system. So every patient gets the same treatment. It's once every 3 weeks, and really minimal side effects, which is really important, Will, because these kids and a lot of folks that have cancer go through some really brutal treatments. It's my life's mission to at least reduce or get rid of chemotherapy as much as we can. But this is firing up the immune system, and the side effects are very minimal. It's chills and slight fever, and they dissipate within a few hours, and that's a clear sign that the immune system is responding. So it's a good sign.
So take me back a bit and step by step. So you've worked in the biotech field your whole life, and then you're sitting around on a Saturday morning just reading medical papers, and then you kind of stumble across a study and you think, okay, this could have helped my daughter's friend, or exactly kind of, and then now I'm going to go raise money and take it public. Like, tell me a little bit more about that steps. And was that a 18-month process? Was it an 18-year process? And kind of tell me a little bit more about that.
You are a great interviewer. That's just a great question. Thanks, Will. So, we had started, when Olivia got sick, we started shaving our heads. And I shaved my head 3 times to raise money for St. Baldrick's. We've raised millions of dollars for research. And really, we were having all these key opinion leaders from across the country coming in to D.C. to talk to them and push them on genetic testing. Because a lot of cancers, a lot of solid tumors, and a lot of cancers, they're doing genetic testing so they know what the root cause of the cancer is. And osteosarcoma was woefully behind other solid tumors. So we brought all these key opinion leaders into DC, and about a week before I had read that this company was giving up this phase 2B asset in osteosarcoma, and I knew why. There are only 1,000 patients a year. But when I went to the meeting, Dr. Richard Gerlach from MD Anderson put up a slide of the most promising new technologies, and there was our future technology. And so that was sign number 1, that was going in the right direction. The next day, I emailed 8 of them, said, hey, we're going to start this company. We're going to in-license that technology. Will you be on our scientific advisory board? Every single one of them responded to my email that day. These are the busiest people in the world. I dare you to try and get a response from 8 people, eight of your best friends in one day with an email. So that was check number 2, and that was the beginning of our scientific advisory board. And all of those people have been very helpful. The cool thing about, if you can say it, but the cool thing about the osteosarcoma community is luckily it's not that common. It's rare, but the community is very tight. So whether it's patients, their parents, clinicians, we're all very well connected. And that's been a real mission of originally our nonprofit, our OS Collaborative. But now with OSTherapies, I think we have a chance of having a new therapy possibly by the end of the year.
That's very cool. And it seems like it's kind of the genesis story of most great businesses, is that the story is so good that all the greatest people in the field want to join you regardless kind of what they're doing, drop what they're doing, email you back immediately and saying, yep, this is definitely a solution we need. You kind of mentioned earlier about how there's different things that may be positive side effects, like going after breast cancer and stuff that you haven't fully been able to kind of test out. How do you balance that as a biotech CEO of the kind of shiny object syndrome that you might have found some cure to who knows how many different illnesses, equal to like the GLP-1 companies right now, where they're finding all these different things they can do. But at the same time, you need to focus on your core kind of customer segment and help as many people as possible. How do you balance all that?
So our primary mission is getting a new treatment for osteosarcoma out, and that is number one priority. Patients come first. That's something I learned at Johnson & Johnson. The other indications will come after we have gotten approval from the FDA. One of the reasons is because financially it can help us significantly. If we do get approval from the FDA, we get what's called a priority review voucher. And those values of those priority review vouchers, and what it is we can sell, if we get approval, we can sell this voucher to big pharma. They use it to cut in line by 4 months at the FDA. The current value for those vouchers right now is about $150 million. So that could help us with commercialization, not only osteosarcoma, but other solid tumors, do a phase 3 trial in either breast cancer or a bundled trial in other HER2 expressing cancers. And then either commercialize the human osteosarcoma ourselves or out-license it, at least ex-US. And then there's the canine osteosarcoma, which, we'd like to partner with, but if we have to, we'll commercialize it ourselves. And that's the number one leading disease killer of big dogs after automobiles. So really some big opportunities. But, we stay focused on osteosarcoma. Interestingly, Will, when we started the company, we were a one-hit wonder. If osteosarcoma didn't work, we didn't have any other cancers to pivot to. Now that it seems like osteosarcoma, our therapy is working, we can now pivot to other solid tumors. We can pivot to the canine indication. But we also have another platform technology that's super hot. It's called an antibody drug conjugate, and that's further back in the pipeline. And that will, if we get approval for osteosarcoma with the HER2, we'll use some of the funds for that to develop the ADC business as well.
Okay, yeah, because that's the one thing I kind of always wonder about, kind of more these like orphan type drugs where your total addressable market is 1,000 patients. I get why all the leading doctors would want to be on your team because they're in it just to help as many people. But like at the same time, when you have such a defined total addressable market, how do you sell to the general stock market that like, hey, this could be huge? And so would PET be licensing out the PET or doing it internally? Is that kind of the next mini step? Or like, how do you sell the 20-year plan to someone who says they want to invest in your company today?
7-year financials have us at 1.8 to 2. So,
oh, wow.
Pivoting off of osteosarcoma, but just osteosarcoma could be a $500 million business for us. Because, it's rare pediatric oncology. Those products are expensive and, it's cost a lot of money. It's cost well over $250 million, not by us, by other companies before us that in University of Pennsylvania that have developed this technology. We've done all of what we've done for about $30 million. So we are very efficient, yet we have a huge potential impact with not only osteosarcoma, but the other indications.
And you mentioned the relationship with Penn and how you kind of inherited it from Penn University. Are they still working on this and kind of update you on their own trials? Or have they totally handed it over to you? Or how does something like that work?
So it's a typical licensing agreement where they out-license it to us. We pay some upfront milestones and royalties. And, Penn has been a great partner. Dr. Yvonne Patterson, who invented this technology at Penn, and Dr. Nicola Mason, who's the veterinarian who did the clinical trials, are just fantastic people. They're just the entire Penn system has been very supportive of what we're trying to do. They want what we want, right? They want a new treatment for at least osteosarcoma, and just think if we could affect other solid tumors and possibly remove or reduce the amount of chemotherapy that patients are getting. And then our other technology, the ADC technology, if patients are going to continue to get chemotherapy, what we're doing is wrapping our payloads, and an ADC is basically a cruise missile with cluster bombs attached to it. You can direct it directly to a specific cancer. What we're doing is covering our payloads with silicone. And if you know the industrial uses of silicone, waterproof and all that, it doesn't get broken down by protein or liquids. It gets broken down by pH. Turns out cancer has a low pH level. And we can dial in the pH level for which that silicone kind of erodes off the payload and falls off the ADC because the linker dissolves as well. If you think about chemo, it's moving through the body, hitting parts of your body, and there's serious, toxic effects. And by covering that payload with silicone, we're keeping it inert until it gets into the cancer environment. So if you are going to get chemo, we'd prefer that you get one that's safer.
Yeah. And so as you mentioned, kind of the material science part of your company too, with making sure that the silicone dissolves at the right pH level. For a company of your size, how is the team assembled? What's that org chart even look like? Is it mostly people researching in the lab, then one marketing person, a CFO, and you? Or is it a whole go-to-market strategy that you're trying to figure out? Or at this exact point, how's the team assembled?
So both of our technologies were developed at first-class places, Penn and Scripps, and a lot of the technology has been done. It's the manufacturing that we're doing through a contract manufacturer. It's contract. We use a lot of vendors. Our chief medical and scientific officer was one of the founding scientists. He was at the company we in-licensed from originally, and he was so excited with what we were doing, and he had the same level of passion that we all have, that he came over and joined us a few years ago. The ADC technology, we have one of the founding scientists for that technology on our team as well. We've got a chief business officer who's very well in tune with Wall Street and financing. So I don't know if you know, Will, but we went public on August 1st. We did a PIPE in January, and both of those were funded 90% by internal or original investors from the cap table. So we have very loyal investors, and we've built a very loyal and passionate team around these very important treatments.
So this is a question I ask most of the guests because I'm always just curious. You have obviously a business background with Johnson & Johnson and such, but do you have to go to any night school or anything, or how did you figure out being a publicly traded CEO? Because it's a little different. You got a bunch of different paperwork you need to file on time. Do you have some mentors who are handling all that stuff for you so you can focus on the real business? And yeah, how are you handling the first quarter of being a publicly traded company?
So I was lucky enough to have some great mentors and CEOs that I worked for, particularly Marty Carroll and Paul Fontaine at Boehringer Ingelheim. And some of the great leadership at both J&J and Amgen. So serving every function in a major biotech or pharma company certainly prepared me. The ADC technology we licensed in was from a company called Blink Bio, and our very recent former executive chairman, Dr. Colin Goddard, he was a great mentor to me, especially as we went public. He sold his company OSI to Asai for I think $4.2 billion. So I've had some great mentors, and the regulatory stuff, the filings, we have a great legal team, and then we have a great finance team as well. But we also have really good, very loyal investors who have been there for us, and they not only believe in the mission, but they know that we're very good stewards of their money, and we've been very fiscally responsible, and we've delivered on what we said we'd deliver. Usually took a little longer and a little more money, but that's how it works, right?
Yeah, well, no, 100%. And then I got some just quick questions kind of here at the end as we wrap up. First is just, what is the deal with the structure of children's bones to old dog bones that make it similar?
It's interesting. The genetic mapping of both osteosarcoma in kids, in humans, and in dogs is almost identical. And that's why we are so excited that it looks like our therapy is working, at least for a third of the patients. That was about the same statistics with the canines. Dogs present just like humans. They can present in the long bones. And then after resection, if they do recur, which is what we're trying to prevent, they recur in the lungs usually, and then possibly the brain. And so, our four-legged friends have been a real leader in this. Most drugs get approved for humans first, and then the indication gets extended to canines or to companion animals, cats and dogs. In this case, the dogs got it first. We're trying to get that back on the market with conditional USDA approval for canines. But we really are excited, and we think that the FDA is going to be there to get this approved by the end of the year.
If you do get approved in, like, say, dogs first, do you get to skip, like, the animal trial when you're doing the human one, since you've already proven it's, like, safe and effective? Or does it give you any sort of heads up that you get to move that much quicker, or is it just, you still have to start from scratch?
No, it's a proof of concept for the FDA, so they feel more comfortable, I think, knowing that we've are on the market or have been conditionally approved by the USDA. But the animal testing that we would normally do for humans has already been done. That was done years ago. So, the phase 2B trial we just completed, we believe is a registration trial. And when we go to the FDA, trust me, I'll be back to let you know how that meeting went.
Awesome. Sounds good. So if people want to learn a little bit more about you, a little bit more about OSTherapies and how you help people, where should I send my audience?
Just to OSTherapies.com. And, we're pretty well covered on LinkedIn and some of the social media. We try to communicate, even over communicate. If you talk to my cap table before we went public, we really, really try to over communicate. I don't think there's usually been a problem with that when you have a small company and a startup company. But I think that's served our investors and the company well over the last few years, and we'll continue to do that.
Awesome. Sounds good. And for those of you still listening, please remember to subscribe and review. Thanks.
Thanks, Will.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not provide financial, legal, or any other advice. The information is not investment advice or any offer to buy or sell any securities or to make any investment. The views expressed by the guests are their own, and any reference to third-party products, services, or information does not constitute an endorsement, therefore, by NanoCap Podcast or its affiliates. The NanoCap Podcast express disclaims all liability for any individual's use of the information presented